Did you know most founders think chaos fuels success? I'm Maya on the Founder Mindset, episode 11 titled The Entrepreneur's Daily Operating System. Today I'm talking to Pranay Mahendrakar, the founder of Kala Factory, who runs a $1 billion AI firm with the same simple schedule every day. If you're new here, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming.
Good question. Yes, I love that story. Let me start with my promise. By the end of this episode, you'll have a clear daily structure that turns mindset into action. Because great mindset alone is just sitting on a sofa feeling profound. A system gets you moving.
Pranay, your intro sounds almost dramatic. What's the core idea behind calling it a daily operating system?
Okay, so think of your day as an engine. The mindset is the engine, powerful, high octane, but without a chassis, the system, you just hear rumbling. My daily OS has three pillars: building, growth, and reflection. Each gets its own time block.
How do you carve those blocks out in a busy schedule? Most founders get pulled into urgent calls all day.
Look, the trick is the first hour. Before your phone rings, I log 60 to 90 minutes of deep work, one important building task. That's non negotiable. After that, I jump into people and growth meetings, outreach, marketing. The last part is 5 minutes closing the loop.
That first hour feels too simple for a founder juggling everything. What if you can't find a solid hour every day?
Good question. If you're short on hours, pick the longest continuous slot early in the morning. Even 25 minutes of focused building is better than an hour of distracted work. The key is consistency. Make that block happen every single day.
Consistency, nice, but what if one day your team needs urgent help? Does your system bend?
Right. Flexibility comes from setting boundaries, not rigidly denying help. I schedule all emergencies as growth time. Those are part of the people work. The deep build block stays protected because it fuels future growth. If a crisis arises, you take it out of your build slot and into your growth slot.
You mentioned scorecard. Can you explain that?
Sure thing. Every week I use a founder scorecard with three metrics: time spent on building tasks, time spent on growth activities, and the quality of my reflection sessions. I don't score whether I was busy, I score impact. If I spent 60 minutes on building but made no progress, it's a red flag.
So it's about measuring outcomes, not output.
Exactly, output can be high when you're busy, but without measurable results, your day is wasted. Impact drives focus.
Can you give a real example, maybe from Mama Earth?
Definitely, Ghazal and Varun split roles, one on product, brand, customer, the other on operations. Each had their own building block and growth slot. They'd close daily with quick reflection: what moved, what didn't, next day's key task. That simple rhythm turned a messy startup into a major brand.
That's compelling. What about when you have to build new AI systems and also publish content for Kala Factory?
I layer it. My first block is the hardest work, like building a model. After that, I switch to outbound work, content creation, or client calls. That ensures my creative brain stays fresh for deep technical tasks.
You're touching on time management and focus. How do you avoid the urge to multitask?
Multitasking is the enemy of impact. My mantra is one task at a time. I use a single task timer, turn off notifications for the building block, and commit to that task alone until it's done.
So, if you're tempted to check email during build, you close your phone.
Exactly. No phone, no social media, just me and my work. The rest of the day I handle calls when I've cleared that building slot.
Let's talk about reflection. What does a 5-minute loop look like for you?
At sunset or before bed, I jot down three things. 1. What moved today? 2. What didn't? 3. Tomorrow's single most important task decided tonight. It closes the cycle and primes your brain for the next day.
It sounds almost ritualistic. Does it feel restrictive?
Honestly, it's liberating by having a ritual. You're not making decisions in the moment. You know what to do tomorrow because you decided now. That removes decision fatigue.
Decision fatigue. That's a good point for founders who juggle endless choices.
Exactly, the more you automate those small but crucial habits, the more mental bandwidth you have for strategy.
You mentioned a challenge of the week earlier. Can listeners take that on right now?
Sure, start this morning with one important building task before you touch your phone. At night, write down tomorrow's single most important thing in your reflection journal. Two tiny anchors, and watch how different a week feels when the day stops happening to you.
If I'm not a founder but an aspiring entrepreneur, does this still work?
Yes, build time is any deep work that advances your idea, writing a pitch deck, prototyping a product. Growth can be outreach or networking. Reflection helps you stay focused.
You said a daily system reduces chaos. How does that look for someone who has multiple co founders?
Great question. Divide roles. Each founder takes ownership of one building block like product or marketing. Align growth and reflection cycles with the team's rhythm so everyone closes together.
And if your schedule gets interrupted by investor calls or media interviews?
Treat those as scheduled events. Slot them into your growth block if they are outreach or build block if you're pitching. The key is to never slip them into random moments and lose the structure.
Pranay, what's the most common mistake founders make when setting up their daily OS?
They overcomplicate it. People try fancy tools or endless lists. Simplicity wins. One building block, one growth block, one reflection. Add a weekly scorecard if you need accountability.
You've been talking about systems and structure. Why is that still so hard for founders to adopt?
Because we are wired to chase novelty. The brain loves new ideas more than repeated habits. Building discipline is a fight against dopamine hits from the next email or meeting.
So the battle is psychological as much as logistical.
Exactly. That's why I focus on tiny, repeatable rituals that train your brain to say yes to the system, not the distraction.
You mentioned that having a mindset without a system is like a well informed person sitting on a sofa. Does that apply outside of startups?
Definitely, any goal, learning a language, building fitness, needs the same principle, a clear intention plus a repeatable process to get there.
I'm curious, do you have a personal ritual before starting your first building block?
Yes, I do a quick breathing exercise for 1 minute. It centers me and signals my brain that the work zone is on. You can replace it with any quiet ritual.
That's a neat tip. Finally, how do you keep this system alive as your company scales?
You scale by scaling roles, not hours. Assign team members to own each building block. The reflection stays the same. It becomes a culture check in for the whole org.
Thanks so much for sharing that practical framework, Pranay. Your daily OS sounds like something every founder and anyone aiming for consistent impact can implement right away. So, that tiny breathing trick sets the stage for the rest of your day. That sounds almost too simple.
Yeah, it's just 1 minute. The idea is to create a cue that your brain jumps into work mode. I've seen people replace it with journaling or a quick stretch, and the effect stays the same.
Gotcha. Now tell us about scaling. You mentioned assigning roles for building blocks. How do you keep the daily OS alive when new hires come on board?
When people join, we assign them ownership of a block, product operations, or customer outreach. They schedule their own protected morning slot and they're responsible for recording their progress in a shared scorecard.
Scorecard? That's like an internal KPI tracker.
Exactly, it's not about busyness, it rates the impact of each block on the mission. That way, we all see the same outcomes and the culture keeps reflecting.
Great quick mid roll. If you are finding these tools useful, hit subscribe or share with someone who's drowning in emails. Okay, back to us, your morning start before the phone. How do you decide what that single building task should be each day?
I use a one liner. What moves the needle if I finish it today? That filters out distractions. Then I rank it against the next four items on my priority list. If it's higher, it gets the block. If not, it stays in a backlog for the next day.
Makes sense. You said you do 60 to 90 minutes of that work. What happens if your building block takes longer than that?
I use time boxing. If the task spills over, I mark it as in progress and move on at the hour's end. That keeps the rhythm, otherwise, you bleed into other blocks.
Right? You keep momentum without losing the day to a single runaway project.
Exactly, the goal is steady progress, not sprint burnout.
Switching gears, in your afternoon, you focus on growth and people. How do you juggle that with the rest of the founder's day?
I block the middle hour for outreach, calls, demos, or email follow ups. I keep a 20-minute timer to stay efficient. If something urgent pops up, it's handled in a buffer slot after my scheduled meetings, but the bulk of my day is devoted to team syncs and product review.
That buffer, do you think founders should keep all their meetings flexible?
I say schedule the non essential first, then put the essential later. It's counterintuitive, but it gives me control.
You've mentioned closing the day in 5 minutes. What exactly goes into that reflection loop?
We look at three questions: what moved, what didn't, and tomorrow's single most important thing. I write them on a sticky note I keep in my office so the answer is visible for the next day. If something failed, I ask why. It didn't move. Was it scope or resource? Then I decide what I'll do tomorrow to tackle that blocker.
So, you're essentially building a feedback loop into the daily grind.
Yes, it turns fragmented tasks into cumulative progress.
How would you teach someone who's always on email overload to adopt this system?
I'd start with a simple rule: no phone for the first hour. If they can survive that, they've shown discipline. Then add the 5-minute reflection as a non negotiable. The combination of isolation and closure is surprisingly powerful.
You mentioned a weekly founder scorecard. What metrics do you pull onto that board?
I track three core axes: value delivered, growth velocity, and team well being. Each axis has one or two concrete metrics like active users for value, ARR growth for velocity, and pulse survey score for well being.
If you're scaling to multiple regions, do you adjust those axes?
The axes stay the same, but I add a geographic layer. Each region has its own mini scorecard feeding into the main board. That way, we keep local accountability while seeing global impact.
Sounds like you've built a company wide daily OS.
Exactly, the founder structure seeds the culture and it scales with roles instead of hours.
We've heard about the routine, but what if a day doesn't go as planned? Say an emergency comes up.
I view it as a disruption to the loop, not a break. You still slot your building block for that week, you just shift its time within the day. And the reflection at night catches the deviation so you can adjust tomorrow.
That resilience factor, does it come from the routine itself?
Yes, because when the system is predictable, your brain knows where to focus and stress reduces.
Finally, can you give us a quick example of how you set a day's single most important thing after reflecting?
Suppose the reflection shows that last week's product demo didn't close. I'd set tomorrow's most important thing to finish the final feature for the demo and send test links.
So you're tying each day directly to outcomes. Let me recap. We've got morning breathing, one building block, afternoon growth work, nightly reflection, a weekly scorecard. Do you have any last takeaway before we wrap?
First, protect your first hour. It's non negotiable. Second, make every day a closed loop with a single takeaway. Third, scale the system by giving people ownership of each block.
Thanks for those golden nuggets, Pranay. I appreciate how you cut through the fluff and gave us real tools to start today. If you loved this deep dive into daily structure, hit subscribe, share with a founder friend, or drop a comment below. Next week, we are tackling the final question that truly matters at the end of the day. Stay tuned and remember, keep building. This is the founder mindset. See you next episode.